Compassion, empathy, caring. These are the virtues that the left claims for itself, both in rhetoric and in policy. But their compassion is remarkably selective. They riot in the streets when a criminal suspect is killed by police, but have nothing to say when an innocent woman is butchered on a bus by a repeat offender. Today, I want to focus on their so-called compassion for such criminals, because it's clear they have little concern for the victims of violent crime, but I would argue they also have little real concern for the criminals themselves. Since my last video analyzing the confrontation between ICE and Alex Pretti that led to his death, a new recording has surfaced showing his prior violent behavior. In this video, Pretti can be seen spitting at ICE agents, aggressively advancing upon them, kicking out the taillight of a federal vehicle, and violently resisting arrest when officers respond. Many on the left dismiss this as irrelevant to the later incident that resulted in his death. They'll say something like, "So you think the punishment for kicking out a taillight should be getting shot?" And this is such a tangle of fallacies that it's hard to respond coherently, but let's give it a try. No, there is no death penalty for kicking out a taillight, and that has nothing to do with what actually happened. Pretti was not arrested, charged, convicted, and sentenced to death for a property crime. That didn't happen. What did happen is this. He committed multiple federal crimes in this earlier incident and apparently was not held as a result. And that left him free to commit even more crimes, which eventually led to the confrontation where he died. So here's the real question. Was it compassionate to let him walk away from those earlier crimes? Was that kindness? Was it empathy? When the result of your so-called compassion is a man's death, I'd say you're doing compassion wrong. And this is the part many people seem to miss. Leniency toward unrepentant criminals is not compassion. It's neglect. It's apathy. Think about children. Would you call it compassionate to let a child do whatever they want? Never correct them? Never discipline them? Never impose consequences? If I stop my son from playing in traffic and punish him for doing it again, is that me being unloving? Of course not. It's precisely because I love him that I will not allow reckless behavior. If he insists, he's going to meet with consequences, not because I hate him, but because I'd kind of like to have him alive. Now, yes, Pretti was an adult, but the principle remains. No one gets to do whatever they want without consequences. That's literally what the law is. And the criminal justice system mirrors parental discipline in two ways. First, it punishes the wrongdoing, which is important. Second, it signals that continued wrongdoing will be met with greater force. That protects the public, which is the primary purpose, but it also protects the criminal from himself. Now, the left claims that punishment doesn't rehabilitate, which is interesting given how eager they are to imprison political opponents. But even if they're right, even if punishment doesn't rehabilitate, which I would argue, so what? Rehabilitation is the criminal's responsibility, not mine, not yours, and not our society's. Our job is to set and enforce the boundaries. Their job is to decide whether they will live within them. And if they refuse, they lose privileges. They lose membership in civilized society. By refusing to enforce our laws, we're not helping people. Instead, what we're saying is, we don't care about your behavior. We don't care about your victims. And we don't care if it happens again. That's not compassion for anyone. That's indifference. And Pretti's case shows this clearly. Had he been arrested, charged, prosecuted, convicted, and imprisoned for the crimes he committed days earlier, he'd still be alive today. Now, this is a microcosm of our national failures, because for years now, law has not been enforced. The border was left wide open. Millions entered illegally. Many committed crimes without being deported. And all of it was justified in the name of compassion. But compassion without law is not mercy. It's chaos. And chaos always harms the weakest first. Real compassion requires order, because only order makes peace possible, and only in peace can we have liberty. Today's video is sponsored by TireGit. They make it simple to order tires online without the dealership nonsense. Use code GRIT at checkout for 3% off. Links in the description. If this put words to something you've been thinking, hit like. Subscribe for clear, unfiltered analysis several times a week. See you next time.